Before the sky had decided on its morning colors, Liora stepped from the low porch and into the cool hush of the hillside. The air held the faint sweetness of apple wood and damp earth. Dew had silvered every blade of grass, and her bare feet left soft dark prints that closed again behind her as she walked. She carried her wide, shallow basket against one hip. It was light still, empty of petals, ready for whatever the night had loosened from the branches. The orchard rows climbed the slope in gentle curves, each tree a quiet shape against the pale wash of sky. No breeze moved yet. Only the smallest sounds reached her, the hush of her own steps, the distant tick of a settling leaf. She began along the lower row, where the grass grew thicker and the fallen blossoms gathered in quiet drifts. She did not reach up or tug. She gathered only what already rested on the ground, lifting each soft pink curl with care and laying it into the basket so that none bruised. The petals felt cool and faintly damp against her fingertips, like the inside of a seashell left overnight by water. Row by row she moved, unhurried. Here and there a blossom clung to a blade of grass or lay half-hidden beneath a low spray of leaves. She knelt when she needed to, the basket steady beside her, and breathed the mild scent that rose from the dew. The light grew by slow degrees, soft and even, never sharp. The pink of the petals deepened a little as the sky brightened, though color had not fully returned. Midway along the lower slope, where the path bent gently toward the older part of the orchard, she paused. Something different rested in the grass ahead. Not a scatter, not the loose drift she knew from other mornings. A shape had been made. She stepped closer and saw it clearly, a soft spiral of pink petals laid upon the silvered green. It turned inward in one calm curve, each blossom placed as if by a patient hand. The outer edge was wide and open. The center held a single small cluster, almost white at its heart. Nothing disturbed it. No footprint crossed its path. The dew still clung to every petal, unbroken. Liora set her basket down a little apart from the spiral and lowered herself to her knees. The grass was cool through the cloth of her skirt. She leaned near enough to see the fine veins in the nearest blossoms and the tiny beads of water resting along their edges. She did not touch the spiral at first. She only looked, letting her breath slow to match the stillness around her. When she finally reached out, she brushed one outer petal with the lightest tip of one finger. It was cool as the others she had gathered, and it did not shift from its place. The whole arrangement held its shape as if the night itself had pressed it gently into the grass and then stepped away. She breathed in. The scent rose soft and clean, more present here than along the ordinary drifts, apple blossom and wet leaf and something quieter underneath, like the memory of rain. She closed her eyes for a moment and opened them again. The spiral remained, perfect and still. What was the orchard trying to show her? The thought came without hurry, as natural as the lightening sky. These petals had not fallen this way by chance. At dusk the grass had been empty of any such pattern. She had walked this same bend and seen only the usual scatter waiting for morning. Now the spiral lay complete, cool to the touch, waiting as well. She wondered whether the trees had spoken in their own slow language while she slept, or whether the night wind had arranged the blossoms and then gone quiet so the shape might last until she found it. She wondered if the spiral pointed somewhere, or simply asked her to notice. Full morning would lift the dew and loosen the petals. The pattern would not stay forever. Yet for now it rested whole, and she rested beside it. Liora gathered a few more fallen blossoms from beyond the spiral's edge, adding them carefully to her basket so that the shape itself remained untouched. She did not take from the curve. She only filled the shallow weave with what the grass offered freely a little farther on. Then she sat back on her heels and looked once more at the inward turn of pink against green. The light had grown soft gold at the rim of the hill. Birds had not yet begun their fuller songs. The air still held its coolness. She rose slowly, lifting the basket by its handles, and stood with the spiral still whole beside her feet. The open question rested gently in her mind, light as the petals themselves, asking nothing urgent, only remaining. From the far slope a single soft dove call drifted across the rose, low and brief, and then the quiet returned. The next pale morning she came again with the wide shallow basket and something new tucked beneath one arm. A small notebook with soft cream pages rested against her side, and a short stub of graphite lay loose in her pocket, smooth from use. The grass still held its silver dew. Petals drifted in the still cool air the way they always had, light as breath. Midway down the lower slope the spiral had changed. Where the inward curve had been, a softer arc now lay open across the green, petals arranged in a gentle bow that seemed to lean a little toward the next row. Liora knelt and set the basket aside. She opened the notebook on her knee and let the graphite find the shape, slow lines that followed the pink without pressing hard. The paper took the mark quietly. When she finished, she closed the book and rested her palm on its cover for a moment, feeling the faint warmth of her own hand. She gathered only what had fallen beyond the arc's edge, never from within it. The basket filled with cool blossoms that smelled of early apple and damp earth. Then she rose and walked the familiar rows a little farther, noticing how the light touched the trunks and how the dew darkened the cuffs of her sleeves. On the morning after that the shapes had shifted once more. Two soft arcs faced each other across a narrow strip of grass, like the simplest of open hands. She sketched them both, the graphite whispering over the page. Curiosity moved in her the way a breeze moves through leaves, gentle and certain. From her basket she drew a small cup of clear water she had carried from the house, and from her pocket a smooth river pebble, pale grey and cool. She set them down together among the rows where the petals liked to gather, just beyond the nearer arc. The water caught a thin ribbon of sky. The pebble rested still. She did not wait to see what might come of the gifts. She only filled her basket a little more and walked home while the air was still cool, the notebook pressed lightly under her arm. By the following dawn the orchard had answered. Liora found the place where she had left the cup and the pebble. The cup stood empty and clean, turned a little on its side as if something small had sipped and then moved on. The pebble remained, but around it the fallen blossoms had arranged themselves into a path. It began near her feet in a soft scatter and then gathered into a gentle curve that led a little deeper into the orchard than her usual walk, petals lying close enough that one might follow them without hurry. She stood for a long breath and simply looked. The path did not demand. It only invited, pink against the dew-silvered green, turning between two younger trees and then onward where the rose grew quieter. She opened the notebook and sketched the first stretch of it, the way the petals thickened and thinned, the way they seemed to pause beside a root before continuing. The graphite felt friendly in her fingers. When the drawing was enough, she closed the book and slipped it into the basket beside the morning's loose blossoms. From the far slope a single soft dove call drifted across the rows, low and brief, and then the quiet returned. Liora listened until the sound had fully gone. The air smelled of wet bark and the faint sweetness of crushed petals underfoot. She took one slow step to the very start of the new path and settled there on her heels, the basket resting in the grass beside her. The notebook stayed closed in her lap. Ahead of her lay one small stretch of rose still unread, the petal curve waiting without insistence, cool and open in the pale gold light. She rested at the start of the new petal path with her notebook closed, one small stretch of rose still unread ahead. Liora rose from her heels without hurry and set her basket into the crook of her arm. The petal curve lay open before her, pale against the dew-silvered grass, and she followed it one quiet step at a time. The path led her between trunks she had only passed at a distance before. Their bark felt warmer under her fingertips when she brushed them, and the furrows ran deeper, holding small shadows even in the thin gold light. The air stayed cool and still. Petals drifted now and then from the higher branches, landing with almost no sound. She walked slowly enough to notice how the curve of blossoms seemed to hesitate near certain roots, then gather again a little farther on. The grass underfoot was softer here, less worn by her usual morning rounds. Before long the path brought her to a place where the shapes changed. Instead of long arcs, she found clustered ovals of pink petals resting in the hollows between the older trees. Each oval was gentle and complete, the petals overlapping like soft feathers laid carefully side by side. She had never seen such clusters near the younger rose. They seemed to pause and open, as if they were resting places rather than paths meant only for walking. Liora knelt and set her basket down. She took out the notebook and the soft graphite. The paper accepted the quiet lines as she traced the first oval, then the second, noting how one edge of each cluster thinned while the other stayed full. She wrote a few slow words beneath the sketches: resting places, cooler shade, bark more furrowed. The graphite made a faint, friendly sound against the page. When the drawing felt enough, she closed the book again. From the pocket of her apron she drew a length of pale ribbon she had carried for days without quite knowing why. The silk was smooth and cool. She looped it once and tied it loosely around a low branch that leaned over the nearest cluster of petals. The ribbon hung still in the motionless air, a quiet answer left without demand. She stood and took a few more careful steps deeper among the older trees. Another soft oval waited farther on, and beyond it a third. The petal shapes drew her gently away from the familiar edge of the orchard, into rows where the trunks stood closer and the light fell in narrower bands. Each step felt unhurried. The basket bumped lightly against her side. From the far slope a single soft dove call drifted across the rows, low and brief. A little while later another call came, just as soft, marking the slow passage of her careful steps. The quiet returned between them and settled over the grass again. Liora listened without turning. The air smelled of old wood and the faint sweetness of blossoms crushed only by dew. She knelt once more beside the third cluster and sketched its open shape. The petals felt cool when her fingertips brushed them. They did not scatter. They simply waited, holding their oval form as if the orchard itself had paused to breathe. She noted how the clusters sat near the bases of the deepest furrowed trunks, as though the trees and the petals shared some quiet understanding she was only beginning to read. The graphite rested easy in her hand. When she finished, she slipped the notebook back into the basket among the loose morning blossoms. The pale ribbon still hung on its low branch behind her, soft and open in meaning. She did not yet know what it would invite, only that leaving it had felt as natural as gathering what had already fallen. Liora walked a little farther until she found a broad older trunk whose roots made a gentle seat against the slope. She sat there with her back to the warm bark and set the basket in the grass beside her. The deeper rows stretched ahead, mapped only halfway by the petal clusters she had found. The ribbon's meaning remained soft and open, like the cool air that moved so slightly it barely stirred the leaves. She rested without needing to rise, listening to the stillness that held the orchard between one soft dove call and the next. After a time she rose from the broad trunk and lifted her basket again. The grass under her bare feet felt cool and slightly damp where the dew had not yet thinned. She moved a little farther into the deeper rows, past trunks that leaned gently toward one another, until she came upon a nearly complete figure of arcs and ovals resting on a smooth patch of earth between two roots. The petals lay in soft pink curves that opened like resting places, some still holding a fine bead of moisture at their edges. Liora knelt and set the basket close beside her. She drew out the notebook and the soft graphite, settling her weight so that her knees pressed lightly into the silvered grass. The page took the first careful lines without hurry. She traced one arc, then another, pausing to notice how the ovals seemed to hold the cool scent of blossom and bark together. Halfway through the figure she felt the air change. A mild morning breeze arrived without warning, lifting from somewhere lower on the slope. It moved through the branches above her with a sound no louder than cloth brushing cloth. One half of the petal shape stirred, rose, and scattered across the grass in a slow drift of pink. The arcs opened and lost their order. Small blossoms tumbled a short way and settled again, some catching on the dew, others spinning once before they came to rest farther out. Liora remained kneeling with the graphite still poised above the page. The unfinished sketch looked back at her, neat on one side and empty on the other. For a long breath she considered gathering the petals with her hands and setting them back into place. Her fingers hovered near the nearest drifted blossom. Then she chose not to rebuild the shape by hand. The orchard had arranged it once, she would not force it to hold. She closed the notebook gently and laid it in the basket among the morning blossoms she had already gathered. The graphite she slipped into a fold of her sleeve. Her palm found the bark of the nearest trunk, which had begun to warm under the pale light. She rested her hand there and simply waited. The wood felt steady and faintly rough beneath her skin, holding the quiet heat of the early day. The breeze passed on through the upper leaves and thinned itself away. Stillness returned by degrees. In that soft pause a single soft dove call drifted from the far slope, low and unhurried, marking the space between one moment and the next. Liora kept her hand on the bark and listened until the call faded into the cool air. When the air stilled completely, she watched the ground beyond the scattered place. Petals that had lain loose began to gather again, not into the old figure but into something larger and more deliberate. New arcs curved farther out than before. Fresh ovals opened slowly, as if the orchard had taken her patience as part of the conversation and was answering with a wider map. The shapes formed without haste, pink against the green, their edges still cool to the eye. She did not reach for the notebook. She did not shift her knees. The larger pattern was only beginning, its first lines clear and its full line still unread. She remained kneeling in the quiet after the breeze, palm against the warming bark, basket close, breathing the petal-soft scent that rose from the grass around her. The deeper rows held their stillness. Farther petals continued their slow arrival, settling one by one into the new arrangement. Liora stayed where she was, letting the morning unfold at its own pace, the unread line waiting gently ahead of her on the earth. Liora stayed kneeling a little longer, watching the new arcs finish their slow curve across the grass. The petals settled one by one, each soft edge catching the pale light that had not yet turned fully gold. She rose at last without hurry, left the notebook where it lay, and took up her wide, shallow basket. The larger figure invited her forward with quiet patience, its open ovals spaced like gentle pauses along a path only the orchard knew. She followed the outermost arc first, stepping carefully so her boots did not press the pink shapes flat. Dew still silvered the grass and cooled the leather. The air held the same petal-soft scent she had breathed since first light, mixed now with the deeper green smell of older bark. A single soft dove call drifted from the far slope, low and unhurried, marking the distance she had already come and the quiet still ahead. The arcs led her between trunks she had visited only once before. Their bark felt warmer under her trailing fingers, furrowed and rough in places where lichen had settled like pale green lace. Fresh ovals opened beside the roots, wider than the ones she had sketched on earlier mornings. She paused at each, letting her eyes travel the soft rings of blossom, noticing how they seemed to rest rather than travel, as if the path itself were meant for stopping. Farther on, the deliberate lines gathered tighter. Petals curved around a low place where the ground dipped gently between two broad trees. Their lowest branches hung untrimmed, heavy with new leaves and the last pale blossoms that had not yet fallen. The air beneath them felt cooler and stiller, sheltered from even the mildest stir. Liora knelt again, basket set aside, and let her gaze travel the final oval that framed the hollow. Moss covered the thick roots in a soft green cushion. Nestled among the moss lay a scatter of small feathers, pale gray and white, so light they barely pressed the green. Some rested open like tiny fans. Others curled gently at the edges. None were crushed or scattered by wind. They simply belonged there, quiet and undisturbed, as if the hollow had held them through many dawns. Liora reached out and touched one feather with the tip of one finger. It was softer than the petals, almost weightless, warm only from the mild air. In that small contact, the meaning of every earlier shape arrived without hurry. The first spiral on the lower slope, the soft arcs that had answered her water and pebble, the clustered ovals among the older trees, even the scattered half she had chosen not to rebuild, all of them had been mapping the quiet resting paths of migrating birds. The birds paused here beneath the untrimmed boughs, sheltered and unseen, before lifting again toward farther places. The orchard had been showing her those paths in pink petals, and the answering gifts had been its thanks for the simple habit she had never thought to change, leaving the lowest branches free so small wings could find a place to rest. She drew her hand back and rested both palms on her knees. The rows around her felt settled now, complete in meaning. Nothing needed rearranging. The feathers stayed exactly as she had found them, pale against the moss. A second dove call came, softer still, from the same far slope, as if the morning itself agreed that the conversation had reached its gentle center. Liora did not gather the feathers. She did not reach for the notebook or the ribbon or any other gift. She simply stayed beside the hollow, breathing the cool green scent of moss and the lingering sweetness of blossom. The untrimmed branches above her held their quiet shade. Petals continued to drift now and then, landing softly outside the hollow rather than inside it, leaving the feathers undisturbed. The larger map lay finished behind her on the grass, its arcs and ovals no longer a question but a quiet record of flight and rest and thanks. She remained there while the light grew a little warmer on the higher leaves. The basket waited empty at her side. The orchard held its stillness around her, purpose clear at last, and the morning stayed unhurried, content to unfold at the same slow pace it had kept since she first rose. Liora stayed a little longer beside the hollow, her hands resting open on her knees. The cool green scent of moss rose gently around her, and the untrimmed branches kept their soft shade just as they had all season. She looked up into the lattice of leaves and felt a quiet decision settle in her the way dew settles on grass, without force or hurry. The lowest boughs would remain free. She would leave them as they were, open and untrimmed, so the migrating birds could find their resting places whenever the nights turned long and the journeys asked for pause. The thought felt simple and complete, like setting a smooth stone back where it belonged. She rose slowly and lifted the empty basket. It hung light against her side, lighter than on any morning when she had gathered fallen blossoms. Today she would take nothing home but the understanding she already carried. Petals still drifted here and there in the still cool air, yet none of them arranged themselves into new shapes. They simply fell and rested where they landed, ordinary and soft. Liora turned toward the familiar paths that led between the older trees and out toward the younger rows. Her steps were unhurried. The grass beneath her shoes held the last of the night's moisture, cool and yielding. As she walked, the light on the higher leaves grew a little warmer, and the dew began to thin into ordinary silver along each blade. She passed the place where the larger map of arcs and ovals still lay finished on the grass. The petals there no longer asked anything of her. They had become a quiet record, and she left them undisturbed. Farther on, the clustered ovals among the furrowed trunks rested in the same peaceful way. The loop of pale ribbon she had once left on a low branch stirred once in a breath of air and then hung still again. The orchard felt settled around her. Trunks stood calm. Branches held their quiet shade. The air smelled of blossom sweetness fading gently into the broader green scent of morning. Liora walked the rows she had known for years, yet each step carried the softer weight of what she now understood. The trees had been thanking her all along. She would answer by keeping the lowest boughs free, season after season. Midway down the slope she paused and rested one palm against the warming bark of a familiar trunk. The wood felt steady and alive beneath her hand. She closed her eyes for a moment and simply breathed. When she opened them again, the sky had brightened another degree, soft and pale, the color of early light before full day arrives. She continued on. Soft pink petals drifted without pattern, landing lightly on the grass and remaining where they fell. No spirals formed. No arcs curved ahead to guide her. The conversation had reached its gentle center and now rested there, complete. The trees stood ready for another night of quiet work, their untrimmed branches open for whatever small travelers might need them. As she neared the orchard's edge, a single soft dove call drifted from the far slope. The sound carried cleanly across the still air, low and unhurried, and then faded into the wider morning. Liora listened until it was gone. She felt the day's gentleness settle into her shoulders and the quiet rhythm of her steps. The basket swung lightly at her side. She had gathered nothing more that morning, and the emptiness inside it felt like room rather than lack. Ahead of her, the path led homeward between the last of the younger trees. Behind her, the hillside orchard held its stillness, dew drying into ordinary silver, petals drifting free of any need to arrange themselves. She walked without looking back often, yet each time she did the rows looked peaceful and complete. The hollow of feathers remained undisturbed beneath its shade. The finished map rested on the grass like a story already told. Everything that needed to be known had been gently given and gently received. The sky continued its slow brightening as she left the final trees behind. Cool air moved softly against her cheeks. The scent of blossom thinned and joined the broader sense of open grass and distant earth. Her footsteps found the ordinary track that led toward home, even and calm. She carried the orchard's thanks with her the way one carries a quiet warmth after standing near a low fire. There was no urgency left in the morning. Only the steady unfolding of light and the soft knowledge that the lowest boughs would stay free, waiting for the birds whenever they returned. Liora walked on under the softly brightening sky, the peaceful orchard at her back, the empty basket light against her hip, and the long gentle conversation settled at last into rest. The story folds itself quietly away now, and sleep comes easy under the same unhurried light.